Hi. Excuse me. Good evening, everyone. This July 6, 2021 meeting of the Lake Oswego City Council is now called to order. Ms. Linder, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mayor Buck.
Here.
Councilors Rapp.
Here.
And Boop.
Yes, here.
Mans.
Here.
Wynn.
Here.
Wendland.
Here.
And Burdick.
Here.
Please note that Councilman Boop is joining us remotely. And now, will everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first on the agenda tonight is public comment, and first up for public comment is Mr. Tom Horman. Mr. Horman, please come forward and welcome.
Do I need to press anything or? Okay. So good evening. Have you ever tried to convince a drunk person that they shouldn't drive in 3 minutes or less? Or tried to convince a group of people that their emotional tie to something is causing them to do things that could be prosecuted as crimes? Several officials in Michigan are experiencing the results of that right now, where 9 of Flint's leadership have been charged, including 2 of them who have been charged with 9 counts of involuntary manslaughter. Our situation that will likely rival Flint's is wildfire preparedness. I have lost several hours of sleep pondering this and invested several more hours writing different versions of a statement to you, trying to give you the information you need in a way that would not be offensive or threatening. I'm sorry to say that I've failed in that effort. So I'm not going to give you a bunch of information. The reality is that you have previously been given most of it. Instead, I have some handouts for you, which I had sent earlier. I think you all got those electronically. The one with the file name that starts with a 1 has links, valuable reference material, with the most important being the first one, which is to a report that was provided to the city back in 2017. Yet staff may not have made it available to you if that was before you joined the council. The one whose name starts with a 2 is a printout of one of the more ominous bits of information in that report, which makes it clear that several neighborhoods in the city have a need to be treated with a high priority to address their risks of wildfire, and notes that all of them are lacking in defensible space. You may better recognize defensible space with language used more commonly in city ordinances as setbacks. Please also note that the high priority designation was given even before the more recent severe weather trends, which have significantly increased those risks. The one whose file name starts with a 3 does a good job of showing the recommended setbacks and what it calls zones. And the last one, whose name starts with a 4, is a declaration of state of emergency. While it may be too late to avoid a crisis, it certainly is not too late to try to avoid one. At the very least, taking that action or a similar one would go a long way in reducing your liabilities and allow residents an opportunity to reduce their risk of wildfire destroying their homes or killing them and their family. While I'm not an attorney, I have a few years' experience as a planning commissioner and as its chair. I've taken care to construct the declaration in a way that should be legally sound. Credit should be given to our city manager, as the template I used was it from last year's declaration about fire safety. I included language to help mitigate the loss of trees. Of course, it will still need to be followed up with an expedited code revision process. Otherwise, the city would be back in the business of forcing people to live with trees that put both them and their property in serious danger. I'm happy to answer any questions you have and provide additional information if you'd like. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Councilor Mans?
Thank you, Mr. Harmon. I did have a question of clarification.
Yeah.
On the risk spreadsheet that was presented, was
Right.
that something that you created or something that
that's
was
right
part
out
of
of that
the
report.
2017 report? Okay.
Yeah, if I
Thank
remember
you.
right, it's page 5, but if you take that link, you should find it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you being here. Thank you
Yeah.
for that information. Okay, next, Carol Ockert. Hi, Ms. Soper. Good to have you here as well.
Good evening. Carol Ockert, 910 Cumberland Road, and speaking tonight in my role as Chair of the Neighborhood Chairs Committee of Lake Oswego. The Neighborhood Chairs Committee has a simple request of Council, and I'm here tonight to bring that to you before your upcoming August recess. We ask for the inclusion of neighborhood associations on the City Council check sheet, the first sheet you see on the top of many of the document packets for your review. In 2019, this information sheet was developed to give City Council a quick glance overview of an item before you for discussion or consideration during your meeting, and it was a great idea. The Council overview sheet provides an excellent lead-in telling you the subject before you, the involved city department, the category of action required during that council meeting, and the staff recommendation amongst other things. This helpful at-a-glance sheet also has a box to check that lets you know if there was a recommendation by a relevant advisory board, commission, and an associated comment, if any. Tonight, I'm asking that neighborhood association be added to that sheet. Our Lake Oswego neighborhood associations are officially recognized by the city, and as such, should be represented here. It will provide you with a quick assurance as you are reviewing an item or taking action that if relevant contact was made to the appropriate neighborhood, and if there is a short comment, it makes it into the comment box, just as it does for advisory boards and commissions, letting you know the appropriate neighborhood associations are aware in case they have relevant or helpful information that can contribute to your decision-making. The Neighborhood Chairs Committee respectfully asks for the inclusion of neighborhood association on this council overview sheet designed to help you, our city councilors. We believe it falls under the category of continuous improvement for our city process. And thank you for your time this evening. Appreciate that. That's it.
Thank you very much. Okay, is there anyone else for public comment? Oh yes. Okay. Well, next on the agenda is a distinguished service award, so I would invite Mr. Paul Soper to please come to the front.
Right here? Oh, right here. Great. Sit there, Ian. This is Aiden. He's very excited to meet the mayor.
It's great to have you here. So for everyone that does not know, Paul Soper, he served on the Sustainability Advisory Board since 2015. And he combined his talents as an architect with his passion for the future health of our community and beyond to be of invaluable service to the city. In his time on the Sustainability Advisory Board, he's been part of a momentous effort to drive huge progress in sustainability for the city, including shepherding green building standards for the Operations and Maintenance Center, our new City Hall building, the city's toughest in the state plastic bag ordinance, advocating for active and electrification of transportation, and the creation of the city's climate action plan, amongst many other accomplishments. I've had the chance to work directly with Paul during his time on SAB, and most notable amongst his accomplishments, in my opinion, is the way Paul interacted with other board members, the way he ensured everyone was always heard, the way he lifted up the ideas of others, and the respectful way he worked through differences to reach solutions that continue to move us forward. Paul?
He always stays.
Please accept this award with the city's utmost gratitude for your volunteer service, and to Paul's family, thank you for lending him to us for so many years of tremendous work. While you are leaving the Sustainability Advisory Board, I hope we can rest assured that your advocacy will continue for many years to come.
Thank you, Aiden.
Next, we have an unusual thing. We're actually receiving money tonight. Normally, we dole it out, I know. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Malcolm Mathis with Meals on Wheels for a presentation of money, our favorite kind.
Well, my name is Malcolm Mathis. I'm president of the Lake Oswego Meals on Wheels. Mayor Buck and City Council members, thank you for allowing us to address you tonight. First, I'd like to recognize some of our 14 board members that are here tonight. Would they please stand up and be recognized? Hey. Also here tonight is Maria Bigelow, the manager of the Adult Community Center, and Lisa West, the program supervisor at the Adult Community Center. And I think they're in the back. Yes, there they are. A big shout out to the team at the Adult Community Center for their leadership and support that they give us day in day. For those who may not know, Lake Oswego has its own Meals on Wheels program, serving seniors and disabled residents who are housebound. The Adult Community Center also offers other meal programs focused on socialization for our seniors. Pre-COVID-19, they served meals at the Adult Community Center. These programs provide a hot, delicious, and balanced meal every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday between 11 and 1 p.m. So what is our mission? Lake Oswego Meals on Wheels is a 501c3 organization which raises funds to help offset what it costs to prepare and deliver meals minus what our senior citizens can pay. COVID-19 had a major impact on the meals program in 2020, as was the case with every nonprofit in our community. We were unable to hold any of our popular events like beer, brats, and bingo, which a lot of you have been, Lake Oswego Dance Academy's recital, and the popular Lake Oswego Chamber of Commerce breakfast. The board also had to deal with the impact of two of our major fundraising partners, New Seasons Market and our local restaurant owners, who had helped us by asking for donations in their establishments. These two fundraisers have been part of an annual October Meals on Wheels Month designation by you, the City Council. We thank you again for this designation. And thank to Mayor Buck for his support. He's been on the restaurant campaign since the very beginning, so we appreciate his support with his restaurants. So what were some of the outcomes that, and what did we do? First, I'd like to acknowledge how appreciative we are for the outgoing support from individuals, local businesses, and other nonprofit organizations in our community. Generosity from our local citizens who knew we needed funds donated over $37,000. That's $26,000 more donated from the previous years. Donations from local businesses like Home Street Bank and Premier Properties Group and New Seasons Market raised an additional $31,000. Donations to nonprofit organizations like Lake Oswego Garden Club, Christ Church Episcopal, New Thought Center for Spiritual Living also raised around $3,000. And grants from United Supermarket Foundations, which is Safeway and Albertsons, Whole Foods, and Lake Oswego Rotary raised an additional $15,000. We also received a donation of 75 cases of wine from the wineries located in the Dundee Hills, which we used as a thank you to our donors who made sizable donations, which brought in an additional $37,000 and made up for the loss of revenue for events that we could not hold in 2020. In October, Mountain Park New Seasons employees came to our rescue by volunteering, asking their patrons to donate since COVID restrictions did not allow our volunteers to do the asking. And that meant that our top our volunteer, Jackie Mans, could not do her 25 times at the door asking. So, sorry, but you were missed, but we'll look for you this year. So what outcomes did we have? Well, we served 18,488 meals. 75% of those meals went to housebound clients. 25% went to a lunch to go, which took place because we couldn't have eat at the adult community center, so people came and picked up their meals. The average meal delivered to residents was 93 per day, every day, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Our average revenue received from our citizens averaged $3.91 per meal. The average cost for the food and overhead averaged $8.73. This left a deficit of $5.82 per meal, which has increased from almost $2 for the past 3 years. People always ask if there's really a need in Lake Oswego for a meals program. The answer is definitely yes. Last year, almost 50% of our clients paid little to nothing toward their lunches. Again, I'd like to thank the mayor, city council members for their ongoing support of the Adult Community Center and Lake Oswego Meals on Wheels. On behalf of the board members, the staff of the Adult Community Center, and volunteers, I am proud to present a check to Mayor Joe Buck in the amount of $88,778 to cover 100% of the deficit in 2020. This is the 7th year in a row that we're able to cover the Meals on Wheels deficit. So thank you for your support.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Mr. Mathis. Okay. The Adult Community Center, through which Meals on Wheels runs as part of our Parks and Rec program, which is fitting because this is Parks and Rec month, so I'm going to read a proclamation here. We're so blessed to have the Parks and Recreation Department and parks assets, and to be in a community who so devoutly supports its natural areas, active parks, parks programming, community gardens, and more. When we think of the vast array of park types, programs for youth, programs for seniors, and the ways in which our parks serve to provide both opportunity for outdoor recreation and also connect us with the nature that fuels us, it is impressive, and we owe much gratitude now to the folks within our Parks Department, the many volunteers who serve as stewards of our natural areas, on advisory boards, and on committees planning the future of recreation and enhancement of natural areas in LO. Our parks are loved by this community, and it's no more evident than through the selfless dedication we see from our residents day in and day out. And our parks unite us. Through parks events and community gatherings and farmers market, we connect residents with neighbors, small businesses with new customers, and provide an opportunity for each one of us to grow more in understanding with the beauty of the community that makes us Lake Oswego. In 2020, we had 2,731 programs for over 184,000 participants. We have 30 acres of recreation facilities and 623 acres of parks properties. We opened Iron Mountain Park and the rehabilitation of Woodmont Park. We're in the process of design on the Aquatics and Recreation Facility and the remodel of our golf course. We replaced the Roar Trail and work to continue connecting paths along the River Greenway. The depth of what parks offers our community could fill this entire meeting. With all that in mind, I proclaim July as Parks and Recreation Month in LO and ask residents to join in celebrating the beauty of our natural environment, its health benefits to us all, and recognize that the more we care for it, the more it gives to us in return. All right, thank you to the Parks Department for all you do. Appreciate you. All right, next on our agenda is a public hearing for the annexation of the property at 5918 Seville Avenue. We'll invite Mr. Espy, who just came out of nowhere. Mr. Lewis, will you please read the hearing procedures for us?
Will do. Now it's time And now is the time set for the public hearing on Ordinance 2871, which is annexing property at 5818 Seville Avenue. This land use request involves the application of the criteria and standards listed in the staff report, which is available from staff on the table in the back of the room. Testimony and evidence must be directed towards the applicable criteria as listed in the staff report or such other criteria contained within the Lake Oswego Comprehensive Plan and Land Use Regulations which you believe apply to this decision. Please identify to the council the criteria or standards you are addressing so the council may consider your testimony in relation to the applicable criteria or standards. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the city council and the parties opportunity to respond to the issue preclude appeal to the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals. The failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to the proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the city council to respond to the issue preclude an action for damages in circuit court. The public hearing process is as follows. First, presentation by staff, testimony by the applicant up to 20 minutes. Individuals will be allowed up to 5 minutes. Neighborhood associations will be allowed 10 minutes. Applicant's rebuttal up to 5 minutes. Any person in attendance may cede his or her time or testimony to another person, but in no case shall any person's testimony be increased to greater than 10 minutes. Prior to the closing of the public hearing, a party who testifies before the city council may request an opportunity to present additional evidence. If the party so requests, either the public hearing shall be continued to a date certain, not less than 7 days later, or the record shall remain open for at least 7 days after the hearing to enable the party to submit additional written evidence or testimony.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lewis. And with that, Mr. Espy, we're ready for the staff report.
Thank you. Mayor Buck, members of the council, we have before us this evening one property at 5918 Seville Avenue that's being reviewed as a public hearing. And properties where the annexation may be contested, such as those annexing right-of-way beyond the property boundary or past the right-of-way center line in front of the property, or involving sensitive lands, would be conducted through the public hearing process. And before I get started this evening, we just received an email from a Mr. Joseph D. Perry, who is in opposition to the annexation due to concerns regarding the area immediately adjacent to the annexed property turning into an island. And then is also concerned about connecting or being required to connect to city services that are more expensive than those services that are provided by the county through the septic system and stormwater and that sort of thing. So with that, and Jason, if you can, if you correct me if I'm wrong, ORS 222750 governs the annexation of unincorporated territory surrounded by cities. And when a territory is not within the city and is surrounded by corporate boundaries of the city or by corporate boundaries of the city and the ocean shore, a river, a creek, a lake, or a bay, or a state highway 5, the city can annex the territory pursuant to this section after holding at least one public hearing on the subject in which the notice has been mailed and each record owner of the real property in the territory is proposed to be annexed. So in this case, we found, well, first, it has to be surrounded by a portion of the corporate boundaries of the city that consists of the public right-of-way. So in other words, if there's more than 25% surrounded, if more than 25% of the public right-of-way surrounds the quote-unquote island, then it would not be considered an island annexation. And so we went ahead and calculated that, or I calculated that real quickly, and the right-of-way perimeter, if you will. And Carrie, if you can bring up my presentation, I can have a map up here. There we go. If we look at the right-of-way surrounding the island, that's to the left of the annexed property. And I'm sorry for all of the busyness on this property, but it shows the map the best. We find that the perimeter is 1,815 feet long. And the perimeter that consists of right-of-way is 586 feet long, which consists of 32.2%, which is greater than 25%. It would not qualify as an island at this point. So more properties would have to be annexed in order to make up the 25% right-of-way that would trigger the island annexation. In addition, I believe that the council policy is a friendly annexation policy, and we would not annex properties unless they came in to apply for that annexation. So with that, I want to go ahead and get started on my presentation, and I'll move back here. This proposed annexation is owner initiated and will result in the addition of approximately 0.40 acres of residential land to the city and the public right-of-way along the site frontage as shown in red. And the plan and zone designation property is currently under Clackamas County's jurisdiction, low-density residential, and it's designated R7.5 in our comprehensive plan and will be zoned R7.5 upon annexation if approved this evening. The sanitary and water service, that can be made available from an existing manhole in Ford Place, approximately 145 feet south of the site, designated by the green circle, below the red circle. And the city requires sewers extensions to be taken from the upstream property line when connection is made from the public main. However, in this case, the city's wastewater master plan does not show a sewer main being extended beyond the site to the north. So a sewer would not come down Seville Avenue from this location. Rather, if you were to run sewer down Seville Avenue, you'd have to run it all the way from Invery on the east side of the property. Water is also available from a 6-inch Lake Grove Water District line in Seville Avenue and Ford Place along the site frontages, and this property will remain in the Lake Grove Water District, the property will continue to be a Lake Grove Water District customer upon annexation. And as for the Douglas Fir that's located in the center of Ford Place in this area, denoted by the red circle, and I can see it maybe a little bit better in the aerial photo here. The applicant will need to file for a tree removal application permit if they were interested in removing the tree, and it's possible that they might have to if they have to run the sewer up from the proposed location there. Our tree permitting analysis does allow for some exploration of alternative means by which they can extend the sewer by undergrounding or boring underneath the roots. So we can require the applicant to hire an arborist to take a look at that option in order to save the tree if the city was interested in saving the tree in the Ford Place right away. Okay, so staff finds that the property is within the urban services boundary. The future sewer has been anticipated and planned for in the city sewer master plan. And future roadway improvements will be prioritized and funded through the city's pavement management inventory and will be considered in conjunction with other streets throughout the city for future rehabilitation programming. And staff finds that the annexation is timely with regards to the public facilities and recommends approval for this annexation this evening. I'm open for any questions you might have.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Espy. Councilor Rath?
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, as a new counselor, these annexations are new to me, so bear with the probably dumb questions. The area in red where it says row, is that also the owner's property?
That is public property or
public property.
Correct.
Right away, okay. And then the tree, is that on the owner's property?
That is also in the middle of the right-of-way or middle of public property.
Is there any reason to think that the owner's trying to get rid of the tree by going through annexation and then that causes them to get rid of the tree?
Well, it's a little bit confusing because the annexation itself would not govern the removal or anything about the tree. It would be the subsequent permits that the applicant
The
or
annexation has
property owner
nothing to do
would
with getting
apply
rid of a
for.
tree.
Correct.
Two separate entities, they'd have to do that separately.
Yeah, once the property is annexed, then they can enter into the city permitting process to remove the tree and extend the sewer.
The reason I ask is, as we've seen, some people are very eager to get rid of trees or save trees, and sometimes you could probably figure out a way to get around those by, you know, creatively. So that's why I just wanted to double check. So thank you.
You bet.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Espy.
You're welcome.
All right, now we will open the public hearing. Ms. Linder, has there been any requests for testimony?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Would anyone like to testify on this matter? Okay. With that, the hearing's closed.
Move to
Okay.
enact Ordinance 2871.
Second?
Okay, thank you both. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Linder, please call the roll.
Mayor Buck,
Yes?
Councilors Rapp,
Yes.
Mbu, okay, Mans,
Yes.
Wynn,
Yes.
Wendland,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Counselor Mboop, are you there? Okay. Well, motion will pass 6-0.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Espy. Thanks, Ms. Linder. Okay, next on the agenda is a study session on the Aquatics Center funding strategy. I'd like to welcome Parks and Rec Director Ivan Anderholm. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Ivan Anderholm, Parks and Recreation Director. Study session this evening is based on our last meeting when we came forward with options for the Recreation and Aquatic Center. And council directed staff to go back and come back at this meeting with a strategy, a recommended strategy for funding option 3. We've done that in the council report. I'm not going to go through the entire council report, but essentially in consultation with our finance director, Sean Cross, we came up with a strategy that meets the requirements of the city council's finance policy, which is spending most restricted funds first and least restricted coming back. So what you have before you is a funding plan to bring the city funding on the project up to $22 million. School district funding will remain at $15 million, meeting the $37 million project anticipated cost at the concept, schematic design concept level. The nuts and bolts of the recommendation are that $14.6 million in park bond dollars would be dedicated toward this project. $6.4 million of system development fees that have already been collected would be dedicated to this project, and $1 million, which has been budgeted not only in this current biennium, but previous biennium in the parks budget dedicated to this project. That brings the city's contribution total to $22 million. What that does with the remaining balances of potential funding for parks-related projects is reduces the parks bond dollars that are available. And again, this is based on projects that have been approved by council and that are moving forward. It takes that balance down to $3.3 million remaining. Because the general fund capital reserve dollars that were set aside for this biennium budget are the least restrictive funds and have the most flexibility, those remain the same, and the balance will be at $1.8 million. It does take the park system development fee, SDCs, down to a balance of 0 estimated, and actually Director Cross could probably correct me on that, but we're anticipating there'll still be some money in those, but it will be close to 0. What that does, which was another critical question that council had, to other projects that were on the Parks Board's list of prioritized projects for bond funding, Of the projects that have not been approved or staff has not been given direction from council to move forward on, it still enables the ability to fund the acquisition and trails portion of their prioritization. Also allows us to fund if council chose to, fund the Lusher parking and access project with a remaining balance of $800,000 in park bond funds. What it does, this strategy does also allow council to have the greatest flexibility with that capital reserve fund, either for other park projects that were lower priority that were sent up to you by the Parks Board, or other capital projects that are more important to the city. So with that, I'm available to answer any questions that you might have about the strategy. And if you ask me a really technical question, I will ask Director Cross to come up and answer it.
Thanks, Mr. Anderholm. Councilor Mans.
Good afternoon, Director Anderholm. This recommendation is essentially what we discussed at the Parks Board meeting, is it not?
It is very similar. However, the Parks Board, the fundamental difference between this recommendation and what was discussed at the Parks Board was that the Parks Board was looking to dedicate the capital reserve toward the project and still have park bond dollars available that could go deeper into the list, so that as we explored those projects could be designated as bond-funded projects. I think that ultimately, at the end of the day, that could still happen with those projects should council choose to dedicate capital reserve dollars. In my report, I highlighted that obviously there's a balance in the park bond under this strategy of $3.3 million. The two projects that have not been authorized by council, which is the acquisition trails line item as well as the Lusher parking access, still enables us to have $800,000 of bond dollars that could be dedicated to projects of lower priority. The Parks Board did prioritize, and it is in the report at their meeting, they did prioritize Lusher Farm projects beyond the two projects that I mentioned, the acquisition trails and the parking and access, above other projects moving forward.
Okay, just a matter of clarification. Acquisition trails is above the line on this, which means it will still take place, but just a different mix of funding? Is that what I'm hearing?
In their recommendation for funding, the amount remains the same that is dedicated out of, that they recommended dedicated out of park bonds. The acquisition and trails also have in their recommendation, original recommendation, have dollars that would come out of both SDC and then also taking a look at our local share of the most recently passed Metro bond. That amount is $2,083,000, which is eligible for acquisition, trail connectivity, and preservation of nature, as well as allowing access to the public to nature.
Thank you.
I'll just chime in that I think it's a good strategy because it does provide us with the flexibility, and just looking at the $800,000 balance that would be left in the bond funding and combining that with just a portion of the 1.8 we have in reserves, we could fund both items 3 and 4 on that list, and perhaps not the Tryon Cove, but that's a kind of a project on hold anyway. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a smart move to leave the flexibility. I mean, especially not knowing a little bit of a buffer in this project itself too. So, okay. Anyone else?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I agree 100%. I think the flexibility is a good strategy. And I think for people that don't know what SDC funds are used for, we're limited because we're not growing as a city, and so we're very restricted on those funds to use those on specific projects. and this is one of the eligible projects that would be perfect for such funds. So smart management of budgets. So,
Right.
And I think great funding mechanisms.
Okay.
So, and while it wasn't exactly, I know we threw $30 million around as a budget. I think that was mainly from I'd like some clarification on that. From a city councilor, I knew that it was going to be beyond that because we had expectations that were beyond what the school district needed. We needed to have a place for our Parks and Rec department to live. And we also needed some more gym space for the city, which was not originally included. And so while people may be saying we're over budget, I would say we're realistic with the expectations of the community feedback, as well as the, I would say, measured and good thinking of council and the Parks and Rec Board to get this project done. And so while we always threw around a figure, that was never a finite budget. It was a target that we had. And if you'll notice, we're still only using $14.8 million of the bond. So we're actually $200,000 under the bond budget, if you want to look at it that way. So just to get the facts clear and that the community is on the right focus. So that's just my 2 cents worth.
I appreciate you saying that, because it really was not even quite a back of the napkin calculation, the 30 million. We had no design, no engineering, and now with some design and engineering, we have numbers that are, a bit more reliable.
And as well as additional things on there that we weren't planning for originally. So
exactly, no public process yet and all of that.
Right.
So
right.
thank you, Councilor Nguyen.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'll be honest, when I saw this on the agenda, I was expecting to see, when I see alternative funding sources, I was thinking, hey, are we soliciting donations from some entity that, hey, we'll contribute something to this. I didn't realize that we were shifting money from money that the city already had within our coffers. So just putting it out there, if there's anybody listening, we would welcome other alternative funding sources. I'm not sure if that's going to get us in trouble, Mr. Luce, or not, but
Yes, we would.
It would. Okay, all right, then take that back. So
maybe we need Malcolm to go out and solicit funds. He did pretty well with Meals on Wheels.
Okay, so it sounds like we're all on the same page? Yeah. Okay, no. Okay. All right. Thank
Have
you,
the
Mr.
direction
Randall.
we need. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the presentation.
And you did it without the finance director. Congratulations.
You didn't ask me any hard questions.
Okay, now we go into council business, and first on the council business is the filing of initiative measure 2020IN-1, and our elections officer, city recorder, Ms. Linder, will provide information to the council.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. I'm Carrie Linder, City Recorder and Elections Officer for Lake Oswego, and I'm here before you with an update on petition number 2020IN-1 to amend Chapter 10 of the Lake Oswego Charter to enhance protection of the city's natural areas. Palisades resident Scott Hanley submitted a prospective petition to the city in November of 2019. Petition 2020IN-1 was approved for circulation in December of 2019. To be put on the ballot, Mr. Hanley had 2 years to gather the required 4,365 signatures. On June 9th and June 21st of this year, Mr. Hanley turned in the required signatures. I then submitted them to the Clackamas County Clerk for verification. And on June 23rd, 2021, the Clackamas County Elections Office determined that Mr. Hanley obtained the required signatures. I have verified that sufficient signatures have been obtained for petition 2020IN-1, qualifying this initiative to be put before the voters of Lake Oswego at the next general election on Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021. At this time, I'm officially filing the measure as proposed with the City Council.
Okay. Now on the two, we have 2 items in our packet here. We have this, and then we have the resolution.
Attorney Luce is drafted resolution 21-22.
Okay, I think we can consider them both at the same time.
You can. The resolution is just, the state law requires that at the next meeting after the petition gets the required signatures, the council file it. So the resolution would be you filing it. You then have 30 days to act on it.
Okay, so for everyone, we're receiving, acknowledging that Ms. Linder, as our election official, has verified or worked with the county to verify the signatures, and we're receiving that and putting it on the ballot. And also, as we've discussed at our last meeting, we're also, while accepting this initiative petition, referring a competing measure to the ballot. And we're in the stage right now, of course, as a city, of working with community members and doing some outreach on that competing measure. I think it's worth that we take note, of the effort that's been put forth in this initiative petition, but also recognize the duty that we have to ensure that what goes before the voters, especially something that carries the weight, something that will be in the city charter, is a community agreement that fosters the care and stewardship of our natural areas that the city has demonstrated, for decades and decades and decades, both in how it spends its money, but also more importantly how it spends its time. And the devil is in the details, per usual. And it's great that we're building on what our predecessor community members compiled in the 1970s, which of course is what this initiative petition is. It's a carbon copy of Chapter 10. It amends Chapter 10 to add more properties to the language that was crafted and passed back in the 1970s around Springbrook Park. But as times change and as our community grows, not every park is created equal in the way that we care for these parks. The way that we continue to maintain them requires access, requires connection. And I think that we're able to take this initiative petition and really make it just that much better and ensure that the city is going to be working with its friends groups, community members, as we've done, to really take good care. These parks, unfortunately, do not care for themselves. They require the community to care for them, and to care for them, that requires access. And so I think that through this charter amendment that the city is going to put forward, we'll ensure that we're meeting our community goals of preservation, and we'll do our duty to these beloved areas by facilitating the access that fosters that continued connection and care that ensures their long-term health. And I'll just note too that we have community members that have gathered in support of the city's effort in putting forth this competing measure. Folks that serve on our Parks Board, folks in the many Friends of groups throughout town, and they will be working with us to campaign to ensure that we pass this for the future health of the community. So it's good. Okay.
So are there any ramifications if we don't pass this ordinance? I mean, is this by law, does it automatically go into effect 30 days after if we don't act on it?
So the resolution is just filing it. Yes, if you didn't do anything, it would automatically go on the ballot. Because this is a initiative to change the city charter, it goes on the ballot regardless. So normally if there's an initiative, you have 3 options, one of which is to just dismiss it. But in this case, it has to go on the ballot because it's a charter amendment.
Thank you. Yeah. Not that I'm not going to do that, I just wanted to make sure that all the options. So should I move to adopt Resolution 21-23?
Yes, please.
Second. So moved.
Okay, second from Councilor Raff. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, all those opposed, say nay. All right, looks like it passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Linder. And we'll come back at our next. Oh no, we have a special meeting in August to discuss and to refer the city's competing measure. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Now we come to the consent
agenda, we have 2 items on the consent agenda. One is the Fosberg Road Drainage Improvement Contract Award. That's authorizing the city manager to sign a public improvement contract for $789,000 for the construction of the Fosberg Road Drainage Improvement Project, work order 288. We also have a resolution 21-24, which is revising the 2821 master fees and charges for the street maintenance fee. There was just a typographical error in the document. We're fixing that, the dollar off. All right, is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
I think we should pull the finance one off, so Sean. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, passes unanimously. The next item on the consent agenda is for councilor vote only. This is our resolution of the city councilors of the city of Lake Oswego approving the appointments to our advisory boards. I have to say, we conducted 115 interviews. And so first of all, thank you to the members of the council, and thank you for all the community members. I don't know what the record is, but it was a lot of folks that stepped forward, and we only wish that we had more spaces on the advisory boards for everyone to serve, because I think we were all just incredibly impressed with the desire of so many folks in the community to serve the city in this way. We have appointments now to the Development Review Commission, Sustainability Advisory Board, Planning Commission, Historic Resource Advisory Board, Library Advisory Board, Transportation Advisory Board, Parks Board, 50+ Advisory Board, Tourism Advisory Committee, Budget Committee, and the newly formed Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Board. All right. So with that, we'll entertain a motion.
Move to adopt Resolution 2108.
A second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, passes unanimously.
Bravo.
Thank you. And thanks to all the community members for serving, everyone who applied and everyone who's serving. Your service means a great deal. Okay. All right, we're just making time here. All right, so coming now, information from council. Does anyone have anything they'd like to share? How's everything going? We have so much time. Yes, Councilor Mans.
Seeing as how Director Anderholm was up here and we clarified the main discussion from the Parks Board meeting, I just wanted to say that the Parks Board supports moving forward with the bond allocation as noted, so that we have that in public. The other thing is not specifically one of my liaison duties, but I would personally like to thank the citizens of Lake Oswego for their work, because it was often work, on our lack of fire this weekend. We absolutely did an excellent job, every one of us. Although I saw a lot of little fireworks in my community, no one was shooting rockets up into the air to the best of my knowledge. We were safe. There were a couple of very minor incidents, both of which had nothing to do with fireworks per se. Bravo to Lake Oswego, good job. Thank you, everyone. And next year, I'm sure we'll do the same. Thank you.
I understand the only body count was on next door. Councilor Burdick.
I just wanted to acknowledge Jenny Slepian, because she will be moving on from her position, and she is the liaison to the Sustainability Advisory Board and has really served our city well and helped us become more sustainable. So I just wanted to do a shout out and a thank you to Jenny, because she's really done a remarkable job and helped the city.
Thank you. Absolutely. As an update on from the regional table, Metro is looking to recite the Metro South transfer station that is in Oregon City. They have been looking for a while to find a site, and they're kind of in this conversation about whether or not they move the entire facility. So that facility has two sides, as we may or know, like where those of us as residents would go, to taking to the dump, and then where all the garbage trucks go. And so they're thinking of maybe splitting those into two separate functions. So the old site would hold one of those, and the new site would be, you know, the self-haul. And of course, there's also the paint and other toxic household goods and things that people bring there. So they're looking at that and kind of going through. They've identified a site outside of Oregon City and going through obviously a robust public engagement process on whether or not they move forward with that site. We've heard from the county, you know, they're collecting the vehicle registration fee. They have what they call the kind of strategic investment fund. So they're taking the vehicle registration fee is split 60-40, 60 to the county, 40% to the city. So we take a chunk of that vehicle registration, well, the largest chunk, so we're the largest city. But then 10% of the county's 60% goes into this strategic investment fund to make for like road transfers and improvements to some of these county roads that are closer in. So we do have an allocation of those funds a few years out. The report said it was a list of 20, they didn't list the roads, they said 20 roads like within our urban services area, but within the county, but there was only a few $100,000 assigned to it. So from what we know about roads, that will, well, maybe not even one. So I'm not quite sure how they came up with that number. And then there's also a project at MPAC. We learned about a Brazilian runway. So Portland International Airport, they're working on the, well, they've done the design for this Brazilian runway that can withstand a 9.0 quake or higher. So right now they're looking for the funding that would enable emergency supplies and such to come into the region in the event of a catastrophic earthquake. And then we also had a kind of a study session more or less on affordable housing within the region, and heard from various affordable housing developers of all different types on kind of what's going well right now and what could be going better. And that's both within using the Metro Housing Bond dollars, but just also the typical like LICA and other traditional forms of affordable housing funding. And so that's kind of what's been going on at the regional table. Councilor Mans.
If you're done
Yes.
with your report, and I don't know if this is the appropriate time to ask, but I've been asked about citizens, and I see Director Anderholm here, to report or update on what's happening with our concert series this summer. If we are doing anything at Westlake Park, what's going to happen? Because I know that was a little up in the air.
Come on down. They did have the first concert in the park at Millennium just before the holiday.
Right, that's what I heard, but I thought for the record,
Yes.
if you wouldn't mind, I'm so sorry, Director Anderholm, I've done this to you for 6 years, and I'm not going to quit now.
Excellent, excellent. I do better with this than financial questions.
There you go, there you go.
We're proceeding with our Picnic in the Park program, which was a program that we put together that would ensure at the time that we had the program together, or when we had restrictions under OHA. Now that those restrictions have been lifted, we are as a department looking at options this summer to do the possibility of some community-wide free events that won't have restrictions. We've asked the team to go ahead after the lifting of the restrictions to go ahead and look at what we could possibly do. If we do, it'll be pared down from previous years. Previous years we had 8 concerts, 4 at Foothills, 4 at Westlake, and then another 8 concerts at Millennium Plaza. So we have a total of 16 concerts usually during the summer. So it will be pared down from that. We are scrambling a little bit right now, trying to put some plans in place for later in July and in August. And we hope that within the next 2 weeks or so, we'll be able to announce that to the public. So we are looking at it. We are trying to get back to normal.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that update, appreciate it.
If I could respectfully advocate for more movies, the outdoor movie things you guys did last summer, those are really popular for my kids, so.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, and we do have a movie at Lusher Farm and also a concert at Lusher Farm that have been planned as well. So we will be, this summer is going to be a little different, obviously, and then next summer we're hoping to come back. We've had a tremendous response actually to our Picnic in the Park, and so we're going to be pulling those community members that have enjoyed that. We think that could possibly be something as an alternative to the mass everybody come for free that we may continue even into the future, based on the initial response we got on the first one. So we're looking at what we can do for those community celebrations.
Great.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Right, and Ms. Phelan is filling in for the month for Miss Bennett, so raises and
No
Oh, it's
updates
just
or
been
any
a day.
reports, Mayor, thank you.
Okay, well, with that, oh, Mr. Luce, did you have anything? Report? Then, okay. All right, so with that, the city council is now going to go into executive session and meet under the authority of ORS 192-6602E to conduct deliberations with persons designated to negotiate real property transactions and to also consider records that are exempt by law from public inspection. So Mr. Luce, will you please read the parameters for us?
The city council will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602E to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the city to negotiate real property transactions. Representatives of the news media are allowed to attend the executive session but are directed not to report on any of the deliberations that occur during the executive session. At the end of the executive session, the city council will return to this room and will continue with the open session. Any persons waiting at that time will be invited back into the room. No final decision on any matter will occur in the executive session. If there will be any such decision, it will occur on record in the open session.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll take a 5-minute recess before convening in the side room. Thank you. Okay. All right, well, now we're back in open session, and the meeting of the city council is now adjourned.